There comes a moment in life, often in the still space between dusk and dawn, when the quiet in the house stops feeling kind. It doesn't cradle you like it used to. It gathers around you, not noisy, but dense. You sink into your familiar chair, the one you've kept for years, and you notice the mind won't come to rest. Small worries drift in. Old missteps rise. Possible futures begin sketching themselves. Before you even notice, anxiety has pulled up a chair beside you, uninvited. But what if this anxiety isn't evidence that something is wrong with you? Not a weakness, not a failure, not a punishment for having lived long or loved deeply. What if anxiety is a signpost, pointing gently toward something that matters? In the Buddha's way, suffering, including anxiety, is not an enemy to defeat, but a visitor to understand. Seen clearly, it can guide us back to what is real. Many of us were trained to shove anxiety away, ignore it, cover it with busyness, or drown it in distraction. Zen turns the palm the other way. It says, your discomfort is a doorway. Anxiety isn't a foe, it's a messenger with a note you may have delayed opening. Especially in the later chapters of life, when there's more silence, more memory, more space to feel. When the rushing stops, we are left with ourselves, our thoughts, our breath. And that is where the deeper work begins. Today, we'll explore one steadying insight at the heart of Buddhist practice. It won't erase anxiety, but it can shift the way you hold it. Monastics have leaned on this, warriors have calmed themselves with it, and ordinary people, like you and me, have found a wider kindness inside their days. If you felt trapped in thought, overwhelmed by unnamed feelings, or simply tired from carrying worry so long, stay with me. This isn't denial. It isn't forced positivity. It's about truth and the freedom that truth brings. You are not broken. You are not failing. You are being invited to see anxiety differently. Let's begin, not by fighting it, but by meeting it where it lives. In the mind and in the things we hold most dearly. Number 1. Figuring out the roots of anxiety. Anxiety rarely appears out of thin air. It has roots. In Buddhist language, those roots are grasping and aversion. Not just ideas, habits of heart. Grasping is the hand of the mind. It clings to comfort, to certainty, to beloved people and familiar rhythms. When life shifts, as it always does, grasping tightens into fear. Don't take this from me. Aversion is the opposite motion. It tries to shove away what we don't want: pain, loss, loneliness, illness, even the thought of growing older. We reject, resist, fight, hoping that if we push hard enough, it won't touch us. But clutching and rejecting are exhausting, and they don't work. Everything that appears also changes. Bodies change. Relationships evolve. Moods rise and recede. Even the storms that feel endless will move on. It's our refusal to flow with this that feeds anxiety. A friend I'll call Ben, a retired sailor, used to circle the lake at 6 a.m. every day. It was his compass, discipline, identity, pride. Then a hip injury grounded him. He didn't just lose a habit, he lost the image of himself he had come to depend on. Mornings became heavy. The quiet hours he once loved began to ache. Over tea I asked, "Ben, what are you holding so tightly?" He stared through the window and said, "The version of me that could still move like that." This is the point. Suffering isn't born from change itself. It comes from gripping the way things were and rejecting the way things are. In that gap, anxiety whispers, "You're losing control." But here's the freeing truth. We never had control, not in the way we imagine. The lotus blooms in muddy water. Peace doesn't come from keeping everything the same. It grows from softening the grip, from letting life be as it is. You are not your routines. You are not your youth. You are not your past. Loosen the fist around how it should be, how I used to be, and how others must be. And watch how anxiety loosens its fist around you. Zen puts it simply, clinging breeds fear, letting go lets the heart rest. Today, even a little, unclench. Perhaps peace isn't in getting back what was, but in welcoming what is. Number 2. Understanding that the thought that wraps you, it too, is only a thought. There's a familiar moment, maybe at dawn's edge, maybe in the middle of a noisy afternoon, when a thought arrives uninvited and settles like weight on the chest. Something's wrong. What if this never gets better? Suddenly you're no longer in the moment, you're inside the thought. It becomes its own world, tense, shadowed, tight. The Buddha offered a gently radical move. This too is only a thought. Sit with that. Not every thought is true. Not every thought deserves your trust. Some are echoes of old fear. Some are worry habits inherited like heirlooms. Some are simply the brain doing what it's learned. Scan, predict, protect. A thought, even a loud one, is not a fact. It's a cloud crossing the wide sky of awareness. A teacher once said, "You don't need to believe everything you think." Even urgent feeling thoughts may be ripples on the surface. The more we practice seeing clearly, the more obvious this becomes. Anxiety often begins with a single thought that grows only when we fuse with it. Consider Elaine, 76 years old, recently widowed and living in a quieter house than she'd ever known. She started having a rotating set of worries. What if I fall? What if I forget the stove? What if my memory slips? None of these were impossible, but none of them were happening. They were thoughts, carrying fast breath and a racing pulse. Elaine joined a mindfulness group at her community center. One afternoon the teacher invited everyone to write. "This thought is not me. It is only a thought." At first, it felt almost silly. But she began to use it whenever fear arrived. Slowly, the knot loosened. In Zen we call this non-identification. Thoughts are movements in the mind, like wind in leaves. Some are useful, some not. None are your essence. So the practice is not to crush anxious thoughts, nor to shame yourself for having them, but to recognize them kindly. "Ah, I see you, thought. You're trying to protect me. You are not reality. You don't run my life." It's a small shift, from being inside the thought to standing beside it. But it changes everything. So, when the next wave rises, meet it softly. This too is only a thought. No war. No panic. Just truth, whispered inside the wind. Number 3. Mindfulness, returning to where peace lives. Anxiety often begins as a subtle flicker. Unease with morning tea, a tightening while folding laundry. A sense that something's off though nothing obvious has happened. For many, especially those now living alone or in quieter routines, this low hum can drift in like a draft under the door. It isn't loud, but it lingers. It pulls the mind into the cold hallways of what if, and used to. Mindfulness is the open door back to warmth, back to the body, back to breath, back to the only place peace actually lives, here. Mindfulness isn't emptying the mind or forcing stillness. It's becoming intimate with what is. The sensations in the body, the flow of breathing, the rise and fall of thoughts. Learning to be where your feet are, rather than lost in yesterday or tomorrow. A simple teaching says, do not live in the past, do not chase the future. Rest your attention in the present. Anxiety is always leaning forward, trying to predict and prepare. The present asks only that we arrive. There was a quiet carpenter named Sam. After his wife died, the house felt like an echo. Small worries spiraled. What if I forget something important? What if I fall and no one knows? What if I become a burden? A doctor suggested a neighborhood meditation group. Skeptical, Sam went. The instruction was simple. Sit, close your eyes, feel the breath. Don't change it, just notice. At first, he said later, all I could hear was the noise in my head. Then I noticed the breath. Then birds. Then warmth in my hands. That was the turning. Each inhale became an anchor. Each step, a small meditation. He sat 5 minutes a day in the garden, hands resting, eyes soft, breath steady. He didn't try to clear his mind. He watched it, like clouds crossing a wide sky. With time, the clouds thinned. Mindfulness doesn't promise a life without weather. It teaches you you're not the storm, you're the sky that holds it. If you drift into thought, fine. The moment you notice, you've already returned. The noticing is the practice. So when anxiety visits, don't launch a battle. Offer the breath. Feel your feet on the floor, the warmth of light, the rhythm of inhale and exhale. This isn't escape, it's a sacred returning. Try it now. One slow breath. Feel it enter through the nose, chest rising. Exhale and quietly say, I am here, and here is enough. Number 4, compassion, the kindness that softens the edges. Anxiety often travels with a second voice, the inner critic. Why are you like this? You should be stronger. You're a burden. Over time, that voice wears down the spirit, not just with fear but with shame. Buddhist practice offers a radical antidote, compassion, not only for others but for ourselves. Many of us were raised when emotional needs were swallowed, when resilience meant stoicism and self-sacrifice was praised. We tended others, children, partners, aging parents, while quietly shelving our own fatigue and pain. Now, when there's finally space to feel, the backlog arrives. Anxiety, guilt, grief, regret. Zen reminds us, the path isn't paved with perfection. It's walked with tenderness. You, as much as anyone, are worthy of your own care. That's not indulgence, it's medicine. Consider Lena, 79, a nurse by training and a caretaker by nature. She was the dependable one for decades. After retirement, and especially after losing her sister, waves of anxiety began to hit. She felt embarrassed. Why now? I kept it together all my life. At a community retreat, the teacher invited everyone to place a hand over the heart and silently offer, may I be kind to myself in this moment. May I meet myself exactly as I am. At first, Lena couldn't do it. Tears rose. It felt unfamiliar, even selfish. But the teacher whispered, "Self-compassion isn't ego. It's the refusal to abandon yourself." That was the beginning of healing. The anxiety didn't vanish. She stopped facing it alone. She wrote gentle letters to herself, forgiving the exhausted parts, the overwhelmed parts, the hurt, quiet parts. Slowly, she felt whole again. Compassion is a medicine of the heart, and like any medicine, it works when we take it regularly, especially when symptoms arise. Here are a few simple ways to practice. 1. Speak gently to yourself. When fear rises, replace "what's wrong with me" with "this is hard, and I'm doing my best." 2. Place your hand over your heart and repeat affirmations. In anxious moments, this physical gesture says, "I'm here with you." 3. Offer yourself the kindness you'd offer a dear friend. And 4. Acknowledge your effort. You've lived through so much. You're still learning. And that matters. Compassion won't erase every challenge, but it transforms how you move through them, turning anxiety from a prison into a path. Love is presence. Start by not leaving yourself. When anxiety knocks, meet it with friendliness. Offer it tea. Sit beside it. Ask what it needs, not to fix it, but to hold it like you'd hold a frightened child in the dark. Often, that is enough. Number 5. The mantra that disentangles anxiety. Not mine. Not me. Not myself. Sometimes anxiety wraps so tightly around us that we start to mistake it for our identity. The quick pulse, the spinning mind, the blankness, they begin to feel like who I am. In those moments it's easy to say, "I am anxious," rather than seeing anxiety as something moving through us. The Buddha taught a liberating reflection, often summarized as, "Not mine. Not me. Not myself." This isn't denial, it's release. It doesn't shove anxiety away, it loosens the false belief that I am this fear. In classic teachings on not self, we're reminded, we are not identical with the thoughts, feelings, or sensations that pass through. Just as the sky is not the weather, we are not our anxiety. Meet Harold, 82, widowed, who described a gnawing dread in his chest. When it came, it colored everything. "I feel like I disappear into it," he once said. At a local meditation class, the guide led a practice on non-identification. They moved through sensations and emotions while quietly repeating, "Not mine. Not me. Not myself." Harold sat with a hand on his chest. Little by little, the tightness eased. Not gone, but looser, breath by breath. At a local meditation class, the guide led a practice on non-identification. They moved through sensations and emotions while quietly repeating, "Not mine. Not me. Not myself." Harold sat with a hand on his chest. Little by little, the tightness eased. Not gone, but looser, breath by breath. Let's break it down. Not mine. I don't need to own this feeling. It's not a possession I must protect. It's a wave arising. Not me. This emotion doesn't define me. I am the witnessing awareness, not the turbulence. Not myself. My deepest identity isn't made of fear. Beneath all of this is a steady, compassionate presence. Try it. Next time anxiety visits, pause. Not mine. Not me. Not myself. The feeling may still be present, but its power to name you begins to fade. You move from being inside the storm to being the sky in which weather comes and goes. This mantra becomes a lighthouse in fog, a compass when the mind feels lost, especially as we age and face new uncertainties, unexpected quiet, changing bodies, and inevitable goodbyes. None of these diminish your wholeness. You were never your anxiety. You are the vastness in which it rises and falls. Number 6. Guided practice. Bringing this into daily life. It's one thing to hear a teaching that opens a window. It's another to carry it into the kitchen, the phone call, the ache in the knees, the tremble of the heart. The Buddha's wisdom is meant to be lived, in the market, in the home, on the morning walk. This reflection, not mine, not me, not myself, that isn't only for the cushion. It belongs in the beautiful mess of everyday life. Let's do a simple practice you can return to often. 1. Pause. Sit or stand. Let your feet fully meet the ground. No need to change anything. 2. Breathe. In, slowly, then out, slowly. Let the breath be a supportive hand on your back. 3. Name it softly. Bring to mind one worry, a background hum or a loud concern. Don't judge. Hold it like a small stone in your palm. 4. Repeat. Not mine. Not me. Not myself. Then breathe. Feel a little distance open between you and the feeling. You're not denying it, you're refusing to fuse with it. 5. Imagine the breath like a breeze through an open house. It passes through the room of worry, airing it out. The house, your being, remains standing, steady and whole. The anxious thought is a guest. It may visit, but it doesn't own the keys. 6. Return to the next simple thing. Wash the cup. Fold the blanket. Pet the dog. Listen to the trees moving outside. When will you need this? When anxiety creeps in at 3 a.m. and you wake with a heavy chest. When your grown child hasn't called and stories start spinning. When the joints remind you that time moves and control is limited. In those moments, don't reach for perfection, reach for presence. Take a deep breath in, followed by a deep exhale, and repeat, not mine, not me, not myself. Then place your attention on what's here now. The more you practice, the more your nervous system learns. I am safe now. I am not trapped in the past. I'm not drowning in what-ifs. I'm right here, breathing, alive, whole. The present moment is seeded with quiet joy. If we're attentive, we can feel it. This mantra is a bridge back to that joy. A gentle reminder that the unbroken part of you has always been here. So when anxiety appears, don't run and don't brace. Welcome it. Offer it a seat. Meet it eye to eye and remind you both. This is not who I am. Because who you are is stillness under the storm. Spaciousness inside the noise. And love, always love, holding it all. If you've stayed with me, quietly listening, with heart open, pause and breathe. What you've heard isn't just concept, it's a doorway. Anxiety is not evidence of failure. It's a sacred call to look more deeply, to release what was never yours to carry, and to come home. The Buddha didn't promise a sky without clouds. He offered a way to remain steady under any weather. One of those ways is this: not mine, not me, not myself. Whisper it when the silence grows heavy, when the night stretches long, when worry tightens the chest. Say it kindly, not as a weapon but as balm. And maybe, as you keep practicing, you'll see anxiety not as an enemy but as a teacher. Not something to flee, but something that reveals your resilience and your capacity to return, again and again, to peace. Let me ask you, dear friend, what would your days feel like if you stopped clutching what doesn't serve you and started listening for what brings you home? If this spoke to you, share a line in the comments. For more reflections rooted in Zen wisdom and spoken softly to the soul, consider subscribing. You're always welcome here. Until next time, breathe deeply, tread gently, and remember, what you are at your core has never been broken, but only waiting to be remembered. Subscribe now.